From the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
This is a primetime news bulletin here on Joy News on Multi-TV. Coming up, President cuts sword for first batch of senior high schools to be built across the country with a promise that its first occupants will pay no fees, in line with his progressive free SHS promise. Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition meanwhile asks government to take another look at the feasibility of the free compulsory universal basic education program before proceeding with a free SHS policy. Water supply to Eastern Accra expected to normalize following completion of rehabilitation works at Pond Treatment Plant. African MPs meet in Accra on ways to end early and forced marriages on the continent. And some victims of recent forced demolition of homes at the Kojo worried about presence of armed men seeking to completely level the area. We also have business, sports, showbiz and international news coming up in the next 60 minutes. Stay tuned.
News at 8 with Israel Lai.
Now, very first story, President John Mahama has cut short for work to begin on the construction of the 50 free senior high schools. He promised his government will build each year of his 4-year term in office. The president at the ceremony at Nyanwa near Ades in the Upper West Achim district of the Eastern region told a cheering crowd the first batch of students to be admitted into the school, which he hopes will be completed by August next year, will not pay any fees. Reacting to reports about the source of funding for the proposed progressive free day SHS pledge, the president assured funding will be made available in the 2015 budget.
Our country, Ghana, is a nation in a hurry. We do not have time to waste on unhelpful arguments that are not necessary. My attention has been drawn that some of the media say my Minister of Education says she doesn't know where the money is coming from. My Minister of Education was given a job to produce a roadmap for the progressive introduction of free SHS. She has done that job. She has costed it. We don't know how much it's going to cost. And she has presented it to Cabinet. It is my duty as the President of the Republic of Ghana to make the funds available for the free SHS to take off. It is not the duty of my Minister of Education. And I want to inform those who want to know where the money is coming from that they should wait for the presentation of the 2015 budget. If they look in the budget and they don't find allocation for free SHS, then they can raise that issue.
The president also indicated that the contractors engaged have been asked to ensure they make use of local inputs.
Interesting peculiarity of these schools is that the schools are going to be built by Ghanaian construction firms. The construction companies that are selected to build these schools are going to be Ghanaian companies. The contractors will employ Ghanaian workers. And we have asked the consultants to ensure that as much as possible, all the construction material that is used for building these school blocks must be made in Ghana. As far as possible, I know we don't produce glass in Ghana, and so we don't have made in Ghana glass yet. But when we revive the Aboso glass factory, we'll have glass. But all other materials that are made in Ghana, construction materials, can be used for the construction of these schools.
President Mahama also criticized teachers who absent themselves from the classroom, denying the country value for the salaries they are paid.
Examination results of our students fall below expectation. This is unacceptable, and we must take firm action in this regard. And that is why the Ministry of Education has declared zero tolerance for absenteeism this year and plans to implement measures that will ensure that government does not pay teachers for no work done. No teacher in clear conscience can feel comfortable collecting salaries when they have not taught the children. And so, government is going to back the Ministry of Education to ensure that we reduce to zero the current 27% absenteeism rate that we have.
The founder of the Progressive People's Party, PPP, Dr. Pakwesi Indom, has meanwhile applauded the decision of President Mahama to roll out free secondary education in the 2015-2016 academic year. He says he is all for the challenge taken up by the president. The president has been sharply criticized by the opposition New Patriotic Party for supposedly stealing its idea when he announced the policy in the State of the Nation address last week, Tuesday, in Parliament. But Dr. Indom, in a statement on Monday, said it does not matter who espoused the free SHS program, explaining that there is nothing wrong with copying ideas. Cross-fertilization is a good natural process, and we must encourage it in Ghanaian society. I have always believed that a lot can be achieved if we do not care who takes the credit. According to him, a wise person has said that give me new facts and I will change my mind. Another wise saying is, only a fool does not change his mind. Our president has apparently received some new facts and as a result signaled a change of mind with regard to educating our children. Dr. Indom is therefore hopeful the policy would ensure that Ghanaian children receive at least a high school education. While pushing for a compulsory tertiary education, he charged government to build more schools, train more teachers and give them better motivation and invest generally in education. Now we're staying with the subject of education, and the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition wants government to take another look at the feasibility of the free compulsory universal basic education program before deciding to implement its progressive free SHS policy next year. Executive Council Chairman of the group, Bright Appiah, at a news briefing in Accra, reiterated the current challenges in implementing the FQ program should serve as enough motivation for government to map out strategies it intends using to implement the free SHS policy.
President Mahama's free SHS policy announcement during the State of the Nation's address in Parliament has generated heated debate among various segments of society. Whereas the opposition MPP is of the view that the president has stolen the idea of their 2012 presidential candidate, some civil society groups are questioning how realistic and sustainable the policy is. The latest group to join in the debate is the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. The group wants government to use the FQ program as a yardstick to determine the feasibility of the progressive free SHS policy.
How is government able to finance the free compulsory basic education? That's the question that we need to ask. And then also ask how government is also going to finance the free SHS. There's no policy that cannot happen. I think that we need to discuss the various issues that will be an impediment in the implementation of that policy and then come to a reasonable conclusion as to how we want to move forward. And what we are saying is that all the roadmap that government is going to do in the implementation of that policy should involve civil society, should involve the media, should even involve communities. And then inform us that this is the way you want to do it so that we follow through. We don't want a situation where, in terms of implementation of that policy, everything will be on an ad hoc basis.
The group also wants government to address the challenges that are peculiar to teacher deployment and the several ghost names present in the payroll of teachers.
We are also concerned that the question of ghost names on the payroll and delay in processing allowances for newly posted teachers have also not been fully addressed. We believe that there are a lot of ghost names on our payrolls and that have accounted for some issues that we are confronted with. And more so too, if you look at the new teachers that have been posted to the rural communities, there are also delays in terms of processing the little allowances that we give them. And these two issues, we think that we need to pay attention to it and have it as a priority.
The coalition is also of the view that government must take a second look at the complex bureaucracy of basic education management. These bureaucracies, according to the group, has resulted in delays in management decisions and weak performance monitoring systems in basic schools. Decentralizing the process, according to the group, is the way forward.
Education is a right for every child, but for some it takes more courage and hard work to enjoy that right. For 6-year-old Umaru Abdullahi of Namasa in the Tyne district of the Brahafo region, that struggle means crawling to school every day. But as Jojo Kobna reports, Umaru does so with so much pride, wearing a broad smile.
Umaru does not want to be left behind. 2 months ago, he took a bold step of crawling to reach his destiny. His grandmother said she kept him at home because of the distance from the house to the government school. But after constant nagging, the grandmother gave up and enrolled him at a private Islamic school. There are no chairs, no tables, and the floor is also dusty. Yet children find this place a home for learning. Umaru always wears a smile. He crawls 20 minutes to school. His headmaster says he has never seen a child so hungry for education. So he admitted him for free.
He comes to school always a very promising child. He's very intelligent. He answers all questions perfectly well. As much as any other child of normal lesson does, and at times, if you weigh his intelligence, you see that he's a little more intelligent than most of them. At times you see it will rain, and we took pity in him that if he is to go to school, how he will walk or crawl in the muddy, on a muddy ground like that. We took pity in him.
After school, he crawls on the hot, dusty ground back home. Umaru is not deterred by his disability. He walks gradually into his future, and he does not allow his physical disability to hinder him. What Umaru needs now is a wheelchair so that he can easily go to school and come back home. He greets his grandmother and shares what he learned at school. Though the camera makes him shy, he never loses his smile. Umaru's grandmother, Amina, wants government and other benevolent organizations to come to their aid. The Tyne District Director of Education, now Francis Chilaku Sigdi, says after identifying children with special needs, funding to help them becomes problematic.
The only obstacle is that when we identify, but the sponsorship to send them to the appropriate quarters becomes a problem. So my special education coordinator, who happened to be the disabled vice chairman, is also lobbying with the other NGOs outside to come in to sponsor these children.
But until benevolent people come to Umaru's aid, he will continue crawling to have a good future. Jojo Kobna, join.
The Brim South and Central District Branch members of the Ghana National Association of Teachers (NAT) are worried rampant transfers are affecting teaching and learning. They brought up the issue at a breast cancer and HIV screening exercise for members at Akimodan in the Eastern Region. Haruna Yusuf Umpuni reports.
Speaking at the conference, the Brim South representative of NAT Ladies, Mercy Bonny, said rapid transfers in the GES is affecting effective teaching and learning in the first and second cycle schools. She noted that government should direct Controller and Accountant General Department to pay the outstanding 2013 salary arrears and 2011 and 2012 by the end of March this year.
A rapid transfer in the GES is affecting effective teaching and learning in the first and second cycle schools. Conference therefore calls on GES management to properly plan and handle these exercises in a more humane manner. Government should direct Controller and Accountant General Department to pay the outstanding 2013 salary increase arrears and 2011-2012 incremental credit arrears due GES employees by the end of March 2014.
Speaking to Joy News, the National General Secretary of NAT, Irene Tama Duncan Adanusa, explained that when young female teachers are posted to rural communities without support, they will not commit themselves to teaching and learning.
Where a system is when we post these young people in those rural areas and everybody forgets about them, even getting their salary to survive becomes a problem, then definitely no amount of patriotism can help the person stay with it. Some time ago, people say, oh, but people in their first posting, they went to rural areas and so on. Yes, they went to rural areas, but they were sure that at the end of the month, whether the postmaster or whoever it was would bring their salary to them. Does the system work now?
The breast and HIV screening exercise is to make sure that NAT female teachers are medically fit to teach effectively and efficiently. It was also to conscientize the NAT female teachers on the dangers of breast cancer and HIV and the need for early screening, detection and treatment.
Now moving away from education, water supply to Eastern Accra is expected to normalize by the close of Monday following the completion of major rehabilitation works at the Pong water treatment plant. The plant was shut down on Thursday, February 27, 2013 to allow contractors undertake critical pipeline interconnections.
The shutdown last week was to allow contractors undertake critical pipeline interconnections for the bigger project, which is expected to be completed in 3 months. The station manager, Ebo Akwando, explains the work done so far.
Yeah, over the 4 days, we're able to connect the new pipe which has been laid, which is 1,800 millimeters, to an existing fiberglass pipe. We are upgrading the intake system, which requires that we are going to abstract more raw water, which requires that also that we have to create a bigger pipe to be able to carry the extra water that will be abstracted. Operations are completed. Like I said, we started operating yesterday till this morning, so water started flowing since yesterday.
This is the new 1.8 meter sea pipeline constructed, and this is to provide an additional of 12.3 million gallons of final water per day. He added, the operations, when completed, will enable the facility produce water each day to serve Accra's rural areas.
Originally, we were abstracting 50, and the upgrading of the intake pump is going to add additional 40 million gallons per day to improve our supply system to Dodua, Pampram, Afienya, Akwamufie, and then the Akwapim Ridge.
He further outlined some projects which will increase water supply in the capital.
Other measures we are putting in place to improve the supply system to Accra. We have contracted China Gazuba Group Company. They are doing 40 million gallons to serve to Accra, and that will add to Accra system. It will add 40 million through Dodua to Okponglo. It will add about 40 million gallons. In all, by December, if all the projects are finished, we are going to add about That is 52.3 million gallons to the existing 44.5 that we do.
Matilda Pamagan for Joy News from Accra.
And we have more news coming up after the break. Don't go away. A 2010 survey shows 277,000 children are married before age 18 in Ghana. It is projected the figure will surpass 400,000 by 2030 if the current trend continues. To find effective strategies to end early and forced marriages, members of parliament, together with their counterparts from some African countries, are meeting in Accra to discuss the issue.
Sub-Saharan Africa is said to have one of the highest rates of early and forced marriages in the world. It is estimated 1 out of 5 children is married before age 18 in Sub-Saharan Africa. The situation is also widespread in several communities in Ghana.
Last week I had traveled to the Upper West region of Ghana, and I had met with over 120 girls that had been the victims of child and early forced marriage. And what they shared with me was even the ones that had been brave enough to come forward to share their cases that were interested in pursuing criminal charges, they encountered a number of difficulties along the way. So first of all, when they would go to the police, some of these girls, to report the crimes, they would be asked for payments for the forms that are supposed to be free of charge.
Apart from the several laws, Ghana is signatory to all international conventions for the protection and rights of children. Member of Parliament for Takwa Insiayem, Gifty Kusi, noted one major gap in the country's laws is the non-existence of a specific policy targeted at eliminating early and forced marriages. Reproductive health expert Professor Frederick Togbosai said the laws are also contradictory and give room for abuse, urging that traditional practices should come to terms with legal requirements.
Apart from the law itself, which says a girl can start having sex at 16 but cannot be married before 18, need to be harmonized. The two of them need to be harmonized, and I would advocate that Parliament makes the law one, that no ability to have consensual sex before 18, and marriage should be of free will, and it should be after 18.
Angela Dramnabwaje of the ACT Foundation also indicated enforcement of these laws is difficult due to lack of coordination among agencies, no resource commitment, as well as structured approaches to tackling the challenge. Campaigners against early and forced marriage say the practice threatens the lives and future of girls as it disrupts their education and makes them vulnerable to sexual abuse.
The first National Women's Summit has been held in Accra ahead of International Women's Day with a call on Parliament to accelerate passage of laws to promote the empowerment of women. Women are also being challenged to appreciate one another. Gifty Andapia reports.
Fate knows how we will get there. We know.
The goal is to celebrate contribution of women to Ghana's independence and development so far, to encourage today's women exert their role in nation building. Gender and Social Protection Minister Nana Oyeletha tasked women to unite in diversity to achieve a much-needed national restructure.
We are campaigning vigorously against gender-based violence. We recognize the role of Parliament, who have passed laws to protect our interests, the role of the judiciary, whose Supreme Court delivered a landmark judgment that has secured property rights of wives and women in marriage, the role of the media, who have consistently highlighted our issues. And we also condemn gender-based violence and the unfortunate humiliation suffered by 3 women who are alleged to have stolen some items in Accra Mall last week.
Representing market women, Mercy Nijan said more market women are pursuing empowerment through formal education.
We'll be knocking on every door for access to education, access to advocacy, so that at least we'll know how to do our own bookkeeping, how to do our own accounting, because that is very essential to our businesses.
Speakers agreed. Although the judiciary tries to dispense justice in favor of women, legislation was the best solution.
It is only when the relevant laws are passed that the judiciary can continue playing its role of interpreting them. The courts have, in the appropriate circumstances, attempted to do justice, even where Parliament has not enacted appropriate legislation as required by the Constitution. It is her ladyship's hope that this August summit will lead to strategies which will further promote the rights of the Ghanaian women.
Member of Parliament for Pusiga, Ladi Aye Ayamba, said those laws are being vigorously pursued by women in Parliament.
The gender and the Judicial Committee have looked at one of the issues, the interstate succession bill, which we have all been striving for, has been reviewed, and we are forwarding it so that we would see how fast we will get it undertaken. We know what is happening. We know what is happening, and so we're not joking with that.
Prayer coordinator for National Women's Aglo, Gifty Afenyi-Dazi, gave biblical backing about the competence of women in leadership, asking government to do more to get women there.
Until government leads and process to establish pragmatic measures and strengthen the institutions that will address the inequality gaps between men and women, we are going nowhere as a nation. God believed that women have a role to play. And so in Genesis 1:27, he created male and female and blessed them and said that we should take dominion over the land. And for me, I don't see myself as a woman. I see myself in the image of God. And therefore, anything that I want to do, I know that because God created me in his image, created you in his image, you are bound to succeed. You are not bound to fail. So I don't get it when people say that women cannot even be in leadership and get married. Even those days, Deborah stayed married.
The summit, under the theme Equality for Women is Progress for All through Total Inclusion, is an initiative by the Gender, Children and Social Protection Ministry, which it intends to institutionalize. For Joy News, Gifty Andopia, Banquet Hall, Accra.
The Kolebu Teaching Hospital is set to strengthen its clinical audit team to ensure it maintains the best healthcare standards. In the wake of the missing baby saga, the Konfonochi Teaching Hospital Chief Executive of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Reverend Albert Boche, says the hospital would put in place strict monitoring systems that would reduce the rate of negligence on the part of health professionals.
At the annual review of the hospital, the chief executive noted there is still a huge challenge where patients are not treated well or not treated in accordance to the standards required in the profession.
We are introducing clinical audit team who will assess the departments and make sure that there's both protocol observation. I mean, people just don't deliver on the finances, but they deliver on the core mandate, which is the healthcare. So they have to do their things professionally well. You know, we want to avoid a situation where patients treatment are not meeting the standard, you know, of care that is required.
On the issue of ghost names and payment of arrears to nurses and doctors who embarked on strike last year, he noted arrangements for the payment are on course.
We came into terms or negotiation with them. We promised to pay them by December 3 months of the arrears, and we did that. This month too, we are going to give them another 3 months. We are on course and we'll be paying them by the end of the month. We introduced onto the e-payroll, which will give us the mandate to audit the staff who are on duty on monthly basis.
Management also noted the eye center and the surgical theatre, which was closed down for renovation, has been completed whilst work on the specialist emergency center project begins. The new emergency center, when completed, will more than double the admission capacity from 35 to 75 and improve emergency services.
The Ministry of Health has taken delivery of 2 million rapid malaria test kits from the UK government. These will be distributed across the country to all community health-based planning service compounds. Ghana will in the next few days celebrate the 57th anniversary of its independence. The Independence Square in Accra, as usual, is undergoing the annual facelift in readiness for Thursday's parade.
On Thursday, the 6th of March, Ghana will celebrate 57 years after independence. And as part of preparations to mark the day, officials have already started carrying out repair works on some dilapidated portions of the square. The main gate leading to the square has received a fresh coat of paint, while the barricades also used to fence off the inner perimeter are being reinforced. Some visible cracks in the stands are also being mended in preparation for a fresh painting. The February 28 road and other ceremonial roads around the square are also getting similar treatment. The Electricity Company of Ghana has meanwhile also moved in to replace all the old street lights.
This is Independence Arch. It's part of the ceremonial road in Accra. And the poles here, the street light poles here were concrete poles, and they have been dilapidated. They've been there for a very long time, and most of them were cracked and all that. It doesn't look beautiful. So here in particular, apart from getting the lights working, we are giving the street lights a facelift, replacing all the poles, bringing some more beautiful poles, and then improve the lighting here.
Officials say the square will be ready for this Thursday's anniversary parade.
Displaced residents of Ajekojo in Straha East may not have been in the news for a while, but that doesn't quite mean the problems are over. Armed security men have again moved to the area, demanding that the residents leave to make way for the place to be leveled.
Although many of the residents have left the area, others still live in the area and are seeking shelter from an uncompleted building. According to them, several attempts by armed security men to forcefully eject them from the land has left many of them in a state of fear and shock since Parliament has just started investigation into the matter.
The soldiers came around telling us that we should vacate the area. We did not get it clear. Since the issue is under investigation, but also we don't have anywhere to go. No one gives us money to go and rent room, nor giving us a place to, use as a shelter.
So how are you surviving? For be by. I almost say I want to say to free her. And she lose your tents. And then Monday, I'm my baby. You might be with her. Oh, say that bounty her. On the tent in Usuyan tutu. The tent in the Akasham saying to me to and then see.
Meanwhile, the Parliamentary Select Committee has invited residents to appear before it on Wednesday, March 5, 2014. Matilda Pamaga for Joy News, Accra.
Abigail Aduma-Quincy is up next with Business News. Stay tuned.
Of course, here is where we update you in the world of business. My name is Abigail Aduma-Quincy. Now, Head of Banking Supervision in charge of microfinance at the Bank of Ghana, Raymond Amanfo, says the bank is set to prosecute microfinance companies that do not secure depositors' funds. He says the central bank is also working on a deposit insurance package for depositors across the financial divide by close of the year.
The proliferation of microfinance companies coupled with the collapse of many of these companies has raised the concerns about the safety of depositors' funds. Several clients indulged the services of these microfinance institutions owing to their attractive interest rates, but a number of them have millions of cedis locked up as many of the microfinance institutions have folded up. But the central bank says they do not have control over the interest rate these institutions charge, and hence the need for depositors to be vigilant.
So the central bank doesn't fix any rate for anybody. But what we are saying that those rates must be realistic. Anybody who wants to deposit, you must first look at the rates that you are being offered. Ask yourself, how
sustainable is this rate for this institution? When you have rates in excess of about going to about 50%, they're paying you 50% interest on your deposit, and then you begin to wonder, how is he going to deploy this money to be able to pay you the return on that investment? So I think it's critical for people who want to deposit to know that the higher the person promises you to pay the interest, the greater risk you are, because risk, profit goes with risk. So if you are prepared to take a very high interest, then you should know that you are putting your money at a very high risk.
He contends most of the institutions folding up are from the regime where the central bank was not giving licenses to the sector. The Bank of Ghana, according to Raymond Amanfo, has already declined 120 licenses and is still prosecuting quack microfinance companies to protect depositors' funds.
What we've been doing is that we know there are a few of them which even couldn't see the day of light, and they are with the police, about 7 of them. They are currently under investigation. Some of the directors and things have been arrested and they are going under prosecution. Now, going forward, what we are trying to do is that we step up supervision. For the last quarter to this quarter, at least, we've been able to look at about 100 or close to about 125 of them. Visit them, look at what they are doing. We are discussing a draft legislation on deposit insurance, and that will give some level of insurance to all depositors across the financial divide. But that is at a very early stage. We have to finish discussion for the AG, for Parliament, and so we are hoping that by close of year, at least we must get that deposit insurance. That will give some minimum, like insurance. It's like a third-party insurance. We can't pay everything, but depositors will be guaranteed a certain amount of deposits. Yeah.
He also made it clear that although they want to ensure strict enforcement, they will not make any move that will undermine legitimate microfinance institutions. Abigail Adomakwenchi for Joy News.
The latest Bank of Ghana inflation outlook indicates that government is likely to miss its inflation target of 9.5% for this year. This means that the cost of borrowing will go up further. According to the central bank, inflation is likely to remain above the target by the end of 2014, but is expected to return to the target band next year, barring any risks. The main assumptions of these forecasts are the likely pass-through effects of the faster pace of depreciation of the cedi, the slower than anticipated fiscal consolidation, and the continued utility and petroleum price adjustments. Well, away from that, the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council says it would sanction any commercial driver that increases fares as a result of last weekend's fuel price adjustments. The council, which is an umbrella body for various driver unions in the country, has asked its members not to increase fares because the adjustments did not warrant that. The council says passengers should challenge any driver that asks them to pay more. And we end business news on that note. My name is Abigail Adomakwenchi. Sports is up next.
Find out what is really making the headlines in the world of sports. And President John Dramani Mahama and Sports Minister Elvis Afriyankra over the weekend inspected work on the construction of the Cape Coast Stadium. President Mahama visited the facility during his working visit to the Central Region over the weekend. President John Dramani Mahama and Sports Minister Elvis Afriyankra over the weekend inspected work ongoing at the Cape Coast Stadium in the Central Region. The Ministry of Youth and Sports and the Chinese Embassy put pen to paper for the construction of a multi-purpose stadium in the region in December 2012. The $30 million project, which is financed by the Chinese grant, started in February 2013 by the contractor Jiangqi International Corporation for International Economic and Technical Corporation and is expected to be completed early May next year. The government has released a sum of 6.6 million Ghana cedis as government's commitment to the project. The 15,000-seater capacity stadium will cover a total landmark of about 15,800 square meters and will have 8 runway tracks, a football field with natural turf, 2 basketball courts and a handball court. It would also have an outdoor tennis court, a boxing training field, a gymnasium, athlete dormitory rooms, LED electronic display system and an audio system. According to the Minister of Youth and Sports, the project was part of the wish and flagship projects of the late President John Evans Atta Mills. The initial plan was to erect the goalposts for the stadium from east to west, but it had to be changed later from north to south as a result of the direction of the sun, necessitating the expansion and leveling of more ground for the construction. President Mahama promised his government will ensure the project is completed in time. Now, the technical team of the Black Stars is expecting numbers at the team camp base to show up tonight ahead of Wednesday friendly against Montenegro. The team headed by Coach Kwesi Appiah left the country to Puerto Rico yesterday and held a light training session this evening at the match venue. Black Stars technical team left the country for Puerto Rico for Wednesday's international friendly against Montenegro. The delegation is headed by Coach Kwesi Appiah and his assistants Max Okunedu and Nassam Yakubu, with team manager Saban Quay also part of the team. This will give the delegation ample time to arrive before players start trickling in for the match. Only one home-based player, goalkeeper Stephen Adams, was part of them following his heroics at the Chan tournament in South Africa last month. Wednesday's friendly is expected to be played at Atlanta, Georgia Dome, with both countries parading their potential World Cup squads for the encounter. The team started training this evening at the venue of the match. We can talk about the tournament that will take place much later after the World Cup, and checks by Joy Sports have revealed the National Sports Authority has settled on sending 96 athletes to represent the country in 10 sporting disciplines at the Commonwealth Games in Scotland later this year. Ghana will send 96 athletes to the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, Scotland. The figure represents the 10 sporting disciplines that have been selected by the National Sports Authority to participate in the Games. Checks by Joy Sports reveal athletics will send a team of 30 athletes, 10 disabled sports athletes with amateur boxing, cycling, shooting and weightlifting having 8 representatives each. The information indicates that judo will be represented by 7 judokas, while badminton and table tennis send 6 players each. 5 swimmers will be on the parade. The number was influenced by recommendations from the participating associations and the technical committee of the planning committee. Apart from athletics, which will send 2 officials and 4 coaches, the remaining disciplines are expected to send 2 team officials and 2 coaches each. This brings to 139 the total number of athletes and officials to represent Ghana at the Games. The Commonwealth Games is scheduled between July 23 and August 3 this year. That's your sports. I'm George Addy Jr. Don't go anywhere. There's more news though. Have a good night.
Sports was... The award season is in full swing across the world, and Ghana's is just about starting with the award ceremony for the musicians. Organizers of the Ghana Music Awards have launched the 14th edition of the event with an announcement of nominees.
On this note, Executive Director, ladies and gentlemen, I am privileged to launch the 2014 Vodafone Ghana Music Awards Festival tonight. God bless you all.
The 14th edition of the Ghana Music Awards was launched at the Golden Tulip Hotel in Accra. The simple but impressive ceremony was attended by stakeholders in the music industry. Boys Abre hitmaker Guru Fo of a win during the main event.
The name is Akwabo, and I have been nominated for Record of the Year and then New Artist of the Year. I feel great because it hasn't been easy, but God on my side, I've been able to pull through, and I'm hoping that you fans vote and then get me out there, because I'm not yet to disappoint. I'm going to go far. So thank you a lot, and God bless you all.
We thank God Almighty for bringing us this far. At least hard work has really paid off, and we have nothing much to say than to be grateful to everybody who has been able to help grow the brand D2.
There were, however, some industry players who had some reservations about the nominations list.
My problem is I think overall Artist of the Year, I couldn't see Mahashala there. I think Joyce Blessing. I couldn't see my guys there. That's my problem. Apart from that, everything is cool.
No, but I had a little problem with
VGO may now nominating the One Touch album. I don't know whether the Vodafone is afraid of the One Touch coming back on board. I don't know. So I want them to explain to me. It's King 20 AM.
The main awards night is scheduled for May 3, 2014 at the Accra International Conference Center. But before then, fans would have to vote for their favorite musicians to win in their various categories.
So those were nominations, but this is a real winner. Kenyans across the world and Africans at large have been celebrating the success of Kenyan actress Lupita Nyong'o, who on Sunday night became the first African to win an Academy Award. Lupita bagged the Best Supporting Actress Award for her role as Patsy in the slave drama 12 Years a Slave, directed by British filmmaker Steve McQueen. That's it for the bulletin. Before we go the quick run through our top stories. President Mahama has cut short for the first batch of senior high schools to be built across the country with a promise that its first occupants will pay no fees in line with his progressive free SHS promise. The Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition has meanwhile asked government to take another look at the feasibility of the free compulsory universal basic education program before proceeding with the free SHS policy. Water supply to Eastern Accra is expected to normalize following the completion of rehabilitation works at the Bong treatment plant. African MPs have been meeting in Accra on ways to end early and forced marriages on the continent. And some victims of recent forced demolition of homes at Ejekojo are worried about the presence of armed men they say are seeking to completely level the area. That'll be all for the bulletin. My name is Israel. Have a good evening.